Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Gaia 21, a project we initiated under the objective of raising awareness on global warming. Gaia 21 is a project conducted by the Grove family of Royal College to strengthen the minds of students on this vast topic. Gaia, according to Greek myth, is the personification of Earth. We should safeguard our surroundings so the future generations will have a better Earth to live in than what it would be if global warming continues to destroy the planet. Before we move on, I would like to mention that we will be having an online poster competition under the topic Global Warming is a Global Warning, and the link for that will be entered in the chat below. Today's webinar will be on the topic Global Warming is a Global Warning, and our guest speaker is Mr. Anton Pereira. Mr. Anton Pereira is the head of the Department of Animal Science in the Faculty of Agriculture of the University of Ruhuna. He is also a member of the National Committee on Mitigation of Climate Change since 2012. He is also the coordinator of the International Conference on the Impact of Climate Change on Agriculture held in the Faculty of Agriculture in the University of Ruhuna. He is also the president of the Sri Lanka Association for the Advancement of Science. Sir, we are very grateful to you for accepting our invitation and joining with us today. We would like for this to be an interactive session, and therefore I request all our participants to turn your videos on, but please keep your mics muted until we start the Q&A session. But after that, feel free to ask any questions. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for the introduction about me regarding this webinar series, today's webinar on global warming. And it's a pleasure to receive your invitation to deliver a presentation during this webinar on global warming. Actually, it is usually what I do. In most of the cases, I just how to say, accept the invitation, especially when I receive the invitation from particularly the school students, because that is a generation that we need to guide them towards the sustainable way of production, sustainable living. And so because of that, I didn't have any hesitation to accept the invitation when our Chanith Munasinghe, when he actually, I really how to say, appreciate the way that they approach, and then time to time gave some updates. And I think actually that is a way of development of a student. So in that sense, with that very brief introduction about the approach what I got for this program today. And yes, I think no need to get more information about myself, because the required information is given by our presenter. And yes, I will share my presentation now. Can you see it?
Sir, not now, but now can you share, sir? We've enabled the share screen option.
Okay, okay. Is it okay now?
Yeah, now we can see, sir.
Yeah. Yes, so directly we can go to the today's program about global warming. And before going to the relevant topic today, I must have a kind of understanding. I want you to give a brief understanding about some related facts, right? My presentation has, I have organized in the under 7 subtopics, and if I name them greenhouse effect, then the greenhouse gases, greenhouse effect and global warming, basis of representative concentration pathways, effect of global warming, and so on. And before we go into the topic directly, so I need some kind of understanding about the energy that is transmission and the energy involvement in our planet. And here you can see our main source of energy is the sun. So it generate enormous amount of energy, and part of it reach the Earth's surface, and 51% of the energy that emitted by the sun is absorbed by the Earth, and some 20% is reflected by the clouds in the atmosphere, and another 19% is absorbed by the cloud again, right? Another set of portion of energy is absorbed by the atmospheric clouds. And then before reaching the part of the energy, before reaching the our atmosphere, it is reflected to the outside towards the sun again. And the other thing is the energy that is absorbed by the Earth is reflected towards the out of our atmosphere. And this is the energy scenario that is available in the Earth's surface and the atmosphere. And the other thing that we have to understand is the composition of our atmosphere. So as all of you are aware, the nitrogen is the most commonest gas available in the atmosphere. Oxygen follows, and then argon. After that, so argon concentration is 0.934%, right? It is less than 1. So the rest of the gases are how to say, fill that rest of the 1%, right? So then you can understand how minute proportions of other gases are available in the atmosphere. Out of these gases, here, if I name them, the carbon dioxide, you can see 0.037%. So I will let you know, I will introduce what are the global warming gases, right? And then methane, another type of gas that absorb more heat like carbon dioxide. So that the percentage of methane available in the atmosphere is 0.00015. That is very minute proportion, right? Other neon, helium, and krypton are inactive gases, right? So then, so that is actually this composition is altered by us due to various anthropogenic and man-made activities. So this is the composition actually related to year 2000, right? So we have to first understand this composition is changing day by day. Maybe it is with very minute proportion, but still changing, right? And then after saying that, so I want to tell you about the greenhouse effect. So I am sure that some of you have visited some other countries, especially the Europe. So there you can find that in the winter season, the whole earth is covered with snow. No agriculture production can be taking place. So then under such circumstances, so then the farmers or the population of those countries should be fed, not from all the items imported from other countries. So then they have to grow their own crops. So what the mechanism they use is they have a structure called greenhouses, entirely made of some kind of iron structure with glasses. The whole structure is covered with glasses. What will happen? The energy emitted from the sun reaches the greenhouse, and then those energy waves are short waves, right, with containing a lot of energy. And then when it penetrates through the glass, then the energy is absorbed by this atmosphere in the glass house and the surface or the plants. Then that energy is grabbed by those resources. After that, portion of the energy is reflected back. What will happen is when the energy is absorbed, those the emitting radiation will be of long wavelength. So then they cannot penetrate this glass. So then it reflected back again into the glass house. Gradually, the temperature inside the glass house is increasing. So then that allows the higher temperature, maybe around 20 degrees of Celsius, when the outside temperature is around 0 or below 0 degrees of Celsius, still plant can grow where the other area is surrounded by snow, right? That is the greenhouse effect actually. That is how it happens. So if we go into the greenhouse effect, is greenhouse effect beneficial to Earth? Of course, right? So here you can understand our entire Earth with the atmosphere, it is a kind of greenhouse, right? So here, this is the Earth surface, and then this is the atmosphere, the boundary of the atmosphere, right? So maybe around 18 to 20 kilometers from the Earth surface, that is called as our atmosphere, having different types of gases. And then same thing that I described, what is happening in the greenhouses taking place in this system as well, right? The energy that produced in the sun, by the sun, reaches the Earth, and some will be reflected back, some will be reflected the short wave, that infrared. Those are long wavelengths. After absorbing the heat or the energy by the Earth, the wave radiated back towards the atmosphere will be coming back again, right? So that is the global. Is that beneficial for us? Definitely, right? So I think maybe this is known to you even before, or maybe the first time that you are understanding this phenomenon. Actually, if this is called as natural greenhouse effect. If this natural greenhouse effect is not present in the world, then our entire Earth, maybe around the overall temperature around now, actually the average temperature is around 25 degrees of Celsius. But if this beneficial greenhouse effect was not there, but what would be our temperature then? Then our environmental temperature would be around minus 18 degrees. But sorry, here there is 10 degrees of Celsius. That is the situation, right? So then you can imagine some of the life forms available today may not be exist on the Earth, right? So that is why this greenhouse effect is so important, right? What is happening there is these the gases that I mentioned earlier have no sign nitrogen, but there are some other, they absorb some amount of heat from the solar energy. Then it reflects back towards the Earth, right? Especially the carbon dioxide, then water vapor, then nitrous oxide, methane, right? Carbon dioxide is the most dangerous culprit among them, right? So now you can see the difference between the natural and enhanced greenhouse effect. We understood that greenhouse effect is important for the presence of this Earth with these sort of life forms. But when the gas composition is getting changed day by day, so then it has become an enhanced greenhouse effect, because we are producing a lot of greenhouse gases, like usually the greenhouse gases absorb heat more and more. So carbon dioxide is the most commonest gas available in the greenhouse gas available in the atmosphere. So it is enormously increasing day by day, right? So because of that, the heat, you see here the natural greenhouse effect. So here there is it is indicated very thin layer of these greenhouse gases, but here because of the human activities in this scenario, you can find large proportion of these greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and so on. So because of that, the emitted energy away from our atmosphere in the natural process, it is higher. Here in the human enhanced greenhouse effect, the amount emitted from the into the atmosphere, outside that atmosphere, is lesser. So because of that, our planet Earth is getting hotter and hotter every day. Right? So therefore, now you have already understood what is the difference between the greenhouse effect and the enhanced greenhouse effect. As a result, the temperature increase happening day by day on the Earth is the global warming, right? Now there are different terms: greenhouse effect, enhanced greenhouse effect, and the global warming. right? So these are the major things that we have to understand to proceed towards the global warming. So these are the gases that is available, because these gases are having the capacity of absorbing more heat than the rest of the gases available in the atmosphere, right? Carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, then chlorofluorocarbon. So the yes, chlorine, the gases containing chlorine and fluorine, and also another, it is not considered as a gas, but the carbon, the particulate carbon. For example, if you can see when a motor vehicle is traveling, so you can find a black smoke sometimes because of the poor engine conditions. So then in that black smoke, after some time you cannot find it, right? When it emits to the silencer, you can find it, but after that still the carbon particulates are present in the environment, but you cannot we cannot visible in our visible, it cannot be visible from our naked eye, because the particle size is maybe around a little bigger than bacteria, but still we cannot see from our naked eye. It is around 10 microns, right? So that is also part and parcel of this global warming process. So I have named these gases, and this is the very important thing that I have to deliver you. Here you can see there are different, these are the greenhouse gases: carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, ozone, then chlorofluorocarbon, that is chlorocarbon, and then SF6, right? So all these gases, and so because the commonest gas, greenhouse gas, is the carbon dioxide. So the global warming potential of carbon dioxide is considered as 1, right? So if the value of global warming capacity of carbon dioxide is 1, so it compares with the rest of the gases, right? So here, this is the most important 2 columns that we have to understand here. Atmospheric lifetime, when it is when one particulate matter, or when one molecule of carbon dioxide is entered into the atmosphere, it remains in the environment around 100 years. That is the very important thing that we have to understand. The other carbon dioxide, the lifetime is shorter, right? And then nitrous oxide 114, ozone few hours, and then chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs 100. Then this is another CFC, that is 12 6, right? All these gases are utilized as refrigerant. These are chlorofluorocarbons and SF6, right? Sulfur hexafluoride. So here you can see when one molecule of SF6 sulfur hexafluoride is enter into the atmosphere, it remains 3,200 years. Very dangerous, right? And you see the global warming potential with compared to carbon dioxide molecule. Methane is 25 times higher global warming potential. Nitric oxide is 298 times heavier than carbon dioxide, the global warming potential, right? Then chlorofluorocarbons, 10,900 times. And this is particularly this one, SF6, you can see 22,800 times. So that is really dangerous. And we have to understand in our actions, we have to think about how you can, it is our responsibility, how you can mitigate, how you can reduce this amount to be released into the atmosphere, right? That we have to understand. Here you can see the basic contribution or the proportion of greenhouse gases available in the atmosphere, right? Carbon dioxide play a role of 82%, right? Methane 10%, nitrous oxide 6%, then other fluorinated gases 3%, right? This is the contribution. That is why I told at the beginning, the most dangerous culprit is carbon dioxide, because their existence is so high. It is the commonest greenhouse gas, because when the others are in very minute 0.000 something levels, that contains maybe 0.04, 0.037, something like that. So here you can see energy sector is the sector where 72% of the greenhouse gases are produced, right? Then next is the agriculture and the forestry sector, and then industry, right? Not for the energy, for others, for example, refrigeration industry. So then a lot of chlorofluorocarbons are, fluorinated carbons are emitted into the environment. So that is also 5.2%, right? Then waste, you know that our municipal waste is hanging around everywhere in the in the earth surface, especially when our country is concerned. So then, so those are the areas that we have to think about. If some kind of mitigation actions are planning, all these sectors should be given the due consideration. Then we can talk about little bit more about carbon dioxide. You see, at the beginning, I mentioned that 0.03% means, so usually the carbon dioxide concentration, it is very difficult to say 0.03704, something like that. But it is, you can see 0.04 is equal, percent is equal to 400 parts per million, ppm. I am sure that you can understand what it means, right? If you take a million parts of the atmosphere, 408 parts are carbon dioxide. Actually, you can see this is something that it is gradually increasing day by day, right? The carbon dioxide concentration at 2017 is 403, and 2019 it is 408, right? Gradual increase. Here you can see, right, by 2020 it is more than 400, right? So now you can understand here, if you go into this website, there is an update every day. You can find the present carbon dioxide level on the atmosphere, right? Here actually it was not downloaded yesterday. So then because of that, I got the 2020, June 24, 2020. It is 416 parts per million. You see, here in 2090, it is 408. Now it is 416.63. Right? It is not stopping, because in 2015, in 2005, there was a conference in Rio de Janeiro, Earth Summit. All the countries, around 195 countries, got together and made plans to reduce the carbon dioxide emissions into the environment. But you see, they have plans, they have guidelines, they have targets, but it has not been achieved. So here we can understand the per capita carbon dioxide emission, right? The highest per capita carbon dioxide emission is done by the Palau, right? That is a country, the series of islands in the West Pacific region, right? The next one is actually most of the oil producing countries produce larger amount of carbon dioxide into the environment, tons per year, per person. One single person produce 39 tons per year carbon dioxide. Global average is 4.8 tons per year per person. But here the Sri Lankans, we are producing very little amount of carbon dioxide. But still, we have the responsibility to reduce that amount as well. And you can see what are the most, how to say, polluting countries. For example, China produced the 30% of the total carbon dioxide emission from the world, right? Then followed by United States 15%, European Union 9%, India 7%, Russia 5%, Japan 4%. Other rest of the countries produce only 30%. While China is producing 30%, all the other countries, except these countries mentioned in this pie chart, producing only 30%. So then these developed countries have more responsibility to reduce carbon dioxide emissions to the environment. Here you can see, like similar to the carbon dioxide, the nitrous oxide and the ammonia, methane also getting increased over the years. Right? So here, when the methane is considered, you can see natural gases, right? Those are the sources that produce more. This is natural gases actually, non-biological origin, right? Then rice paddies, right? Our paddy fields and the wetlands, because of the anaerobic conditions exist there, produce significant amount of methane to the environment. Then the ruminants, that ruminants means the livestock like cattle, goat, sheep, right? They have a complex stomach. Within that stomach, the anaerobic digestion take place. The food is anaerobically digest to the nutrients. So then they also produce large proportion of methane, and then followed by marshes, and then other biological processes like waste treatment. And then global nitrous oxide, right? So then most of the agricultural activities responsible for the nitrous oxide production. And then basis of representative concentration pathways. Actually, so when we discuss about the global level, I mentioned you that in 2014, that Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, that is the organization comprised of all the representatives from all the countries, 195 member countries, right? So they get together and develop a plan to mitigate the carbon dioxide concentrate, greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere, right? So they have identified 4 different concentration pathways. Here you can understand. So here these are the, if the current production amount taking place over the years without any control, this is the amount of carbon dioxide concentration available by 2100 at the beginning of the next century. So the carbon dioxide concentration, today's carbon dioxide concentration is 419, 415, something like that. But in 2100, if the same rate of carbon dioxide generation is continued, so it will end up with around over 1000, over 1100, nearly 1250, right? So that is the situation. But here you can see the green line. If the carbon dioxide concentration is stopped at the present stage around 2020, what will happen? But right, this is the peak. Around 2020, we reach the maximum and then reduce the carbon dioxide emission into the environment. Then still the amount may reach, the amount that reach will be around 425 something ppm. Now already, just before reaching 2100, already we are reaching 420 ppm, right? So here 200 and this line, that is purple color line, indicates by 2040, if the concentration of carbon dioxide production is peaked there, and thereafter if the reduction is going on, so the by 2100 it will reach over 550 ppm, right? If this concentration pathway is, if in around 2080 the carbon dioxide come into peak, and then thereafter we stop the emission of carbon dioxide, then it will reach over 600 ppm. So this is the situation, right? The situation is really dangerous. And then what will happen, right? Because of these carbon dioxide emissions, temperature rise, right? These are the projection. If we stop the carbon dioxide production today, or 2020, already we are in 2020, at least, right, by 2046 to 2065, right, the temperature will be increased by 1 degree of Celsius, right? By 2016, if the maximum, the continuous carbon dioxide concentration is increasing continuously, it will increase by average, on average it is 3.7 degrees of Celsius, right? So you can imagine, when in a hotter day, if we are suffering so much, switching on our fans and switching on electricity or the air conditioners, So then by increasing the average temperature on the environment by 3.7 degrees of Celsius, it's a huge effect, right? So some of the life forms available on the earth may not be able to exist, may not be able to tolerate. So they will go away from this planet. And this is a sea level rise, right? If this under the minimum concentration scenario, our sea level will be risen by 24 degrees of Celsius. At the worst case scenario, it will be around 64 centimeters. So you can imagine if a centimeter or the 10 centimeter water level increase, what will happen? What proportion of our nation will be underwater, right? Because we are an island, right? Like there are prediction that some of the major proportions of the Maldives will be underwater if these scenarios are going on, right? So this is the situation. These things we have to think about, and then we move on to the next section, next part of the presentation, effect of global warming. So we were talking about the sea level rise. So then you can see in the 2010, most of the these houses that close to the situated located close to the coastal areas are away from the sea, right? Then because of the sea level rise, the water storm surge, right? Because of the rapid wind patterns and everything, so that they will reach very close to the house level, right? And by 2100, right? By 2100, because of this increase in carbon dioxide and increase in temperature, snow melting, everything, the sea level will be risen over these existing housing systems, right? So that is the danger in the countries like Sri Lanka, right? We have to think about what proportions and what is the effect. And even at the moment, we must have a kind of disaster management ministry or the institute or the department. So then we have to plan ahead. So what will happen? Because this thing will not happen like tsunami, right? So it will take decades, but still effect is there. So we have to, because at the end you cannot have plans. We have to plan today and face and adapt. We have to adapt, right? And causes for sea level rise, so the snow melting, right? Here you can see a lot of snow cover today is melting because of the elevated temperatures, right? Resulted by the greenhouse effect, right? That is because of one reason for this one is the increase in temperature, right? And here you can, because of the increase in temperature, the snow melting takes place. Here you can see this is the ice boundary in the Arctic Sea in 1979. That red line indicates the ice boundary in 1979. Here you can find in 2000, maybe around 2010 or 15. This is the amount of, so here you can see this is the white area is only limited to certain area, and rest of the area is now become water because the ice melted, snow melted, and those areas have become water, right? Earlier in 1979, the sea area is totally covered by snow. Now it is underwater, right? So here the other reason for the sea level rise is the expansion of water, right? You know that even like the metal, the water is when the water is getting heated, it expands, right? So out of the total maybe 64 centimeter sea level rise, maybe around half of it, right? Nearly 30%, the 30 centimeters is because of the expansion of the sea, expansion of the sea water due to the increased temperature, right? One reason for the sea level rise is the melting of snow. The other one is expansion of water already exists in the sea, right? And the other effect of sea level rise is saltwater intrusion. Here you can see our groundwater level will be polluted because of the seawater that penetrate into the bottom layers, not from the top layers, right? So when you have a deep well, what will happen if you want to irrigate the cultivation, right? Agriculture. So then you will tap the water with salinity. So then agriculture production will be in danger. So these are the some things that we have to face in the future, right? The other that is saltwater intrusion. Because of the saltwater intrusion, agriculture will be affected. Our drinking water will be affected. Even although 99% of the surface is covered with water, only 1% is available for the drinking purpose, right? Even less than that. If that is also contaminated with saline water, seawater, what will happen? So the drinking that drinking water will become a very precious substance in the world in the future. Just like the gold. And then ocean acidification. Here you can see that what will happen because of the elevated carbon dioxide concentrations, right? Those are dissolved in the seawater and become carbonate ions, then bicarbonate, because the carbonic acid. Finally, that when the carbon dioxide is absorbed by the seawater, finally it end up as a carbonic acid. This carbonic acid reduce the pH levels, and when the pH level is reduced, when the water become acidic, the shellfish, right, crabs, right, and mollusks, so their shells become melted, dissolve in acid. So then their existence will be in danger, right? We cannot find then crabs and then prawns production will be in danger in the future. And then climate change, right? So actually nowadays, rather than talking about global warming, right, now the hot topic is the climate change, because of this global warming, entire climate is changed. Now we can experience, even in Sri Lanka, we can experience very thunder showers within a very intensive showers, rains, right? Maybe within one day, 300, 400 millimeter rains, right? And intensity within a very few hours, a lot of water, right? And if the intensity 25 millimeters per hour intensity is exceeded, a lot of soil will be eroded, right? And you can see there are other parameters, climatic parameters like drought and floods, high intensity rains, tornado type winds, intense lightning strikes, right? So all these phenomena are available. We are, even as a country, we are facing, not the other countries. Even in Sri Lanka, these phenomena have become common, right? You see, due to the erosion of heavy rains, then the reservoir is silted. Desilting is a very difficult task for us. Now, some of the reservoirs are desilted these days, right? It is going on. Then you can see in the previous era, right? Sometimes back we didn't have frequent floods, but in this particular slide, you can understand how often we have to face flood situations, flood conditions. And other impacts, coastal erosion, right? So the coastal erosion take place, and if you go along the not the southern highway, that the older road, that is Gold Road, Old Gold Road, you can find in Hikadu area, in some of these coastal areas, the road, now the seawater just hit the road, right? Even beyond the roads. So because of the very strong wave action, that soil is eroded, right? Coastal erosion, right? Then it affects the coastal settlements as well. Some of the houses has gone into the sea, gone under the sea, right? Inundation of low-level agricultural lands, then drinking and irrigation water contamination, then affects the freshwater wetlands and biodiversity. You see, even percent the mangroves are. So what do you think about the mangroves and the sea, right? The salinity level of the seawater is around 35 ppm, parts per million. PPT, parts per thousand, right? The salinity level of the seawater is 35 parts per thousand. But in the mangroves, it is around 18 ppt, parts per thousand, right? 18 parts per thousand. What will happen when the water level getting increased and the mangroves are inundated by seawater? Most of the mangrove forests will be destroyed because of the intolerance of higher salinity levels. You see how our biodiversity, we are rich in biodiversity. Most of these biodiversity sectors will be affected. Impacts of global warming on different sectors. Agriculture sector, as I mentioned earlier, that because of the higher temperatures, usually when the temperature increase, our photosynthesis rate will be increased, right? So for the efficient photosynthesis, what will happen? We need to have a kind of very good air exchange within the leaves, right? Then the stomata will be open. So when the lot of stomata will be open to absorb more carbon dioxide, right? So then what will happen? So then a lot of water will be emitted from those leaves. Then evapotranspiration, the water that is in the ground will be travel through the stems of the plants and getting into the atmosphere, more and more water. So then there will be droughts because of the water in the ground level. Groundwater level goes down because a lot of water is absorbed and emitted into the atmosphere. And because of the high temperatures, the biological activities taking place within the plant leaves. So that will be, there are optimum levels. After that, if the temperature go beyond that optimum level, the plant production will be reduced. Photosynthesis will be reduced. Then our food production will be reduced, right? So those are the things that will be affected, right? Here you can see our climatic zones. We have boundaries like, so the different types of climatic regions: dry zone, intermediate zone, wet zone. Here I have indicated dry zone, the average temperature is around 29 degrees of Celsius. Intermediate zone, 27 to 28 degrees of Celsius. Wet zone, 26 degrees of Celsius. So then when this temperature, right? So when the global warming take place, so the average ambient temperature exceeds all these temperatures. What will happen? You see, the C3 plants, most of our vegetable plants and the paddy belongs to C3, right? So I don't, probably the advanced level students may know about what are C3 plants and what are C4 plants. C4 plants are the sorghum, and then sugarcane, and then corn, right? Those are the C4 plants, right? So then they can tolerate the temperature to a certain extent, but with this with the present scenario, the range will be exceeding 35, right? Here the C3 plants, most of our vegetable plants, you see, we have come to the boundary of this tolerant limits. So then what will happen beyond that? All the temperature that the production will be affected. Then what will happen to us? So then our food production will be affected. No more food. We must fight for the food, right? So those are the impacts, right? Then the respiration, because of the higher temperatures, then the respiration become more and more. Then what will happen? Most of the food produced within the plant used for the plant respiration. So then our yield will be less. For example, in the paddy plant, so the grain is the important part of us, part for us as food. So then when the respiration is getting higher, what will happen? Most of the food produced in the leaves will be used for the respiration purpose, not for the grain filling. Then the amount of yield that will be available will be reduced. And the other scenario is a lot of pathogens and pests. Because of the high temperature, a lot of pathogens, they are very, they are growing fast, rapid growth of the microorganisms, especially the fungus and bacteria, right? So then our crop yields will be reduced. And then when this is very important thing, you see, if the temperature more than 35 degrees of Celsius at anthesis for 1 hour, right? This is not the average, right? Average daily temperature. If the temperature exceeds, even it is common at nowadays, you know, have you heard about Ahalapussa, right? Month of Ahala, right? That is month of July. The normal temperature in our environment is higher. So then usually the paddy farmers, they just avoid the flowering of paddy plants during that period because the temperature is going over 35 degrees of Celsius. What will happen? Api කියන්නේ බොල් කරල් බොල් වී බීජ, right? What will happen because of the higher temperature? මේ පරාග විනාශ වෙනවා. So there is no grain filling, there is no paddy yield. So that is called as Ahalapussa. Then potato production, right? We produce even in Jaffna, although it is dry zone area, still we produce potato like in Nuwara, cold areas, because for the tuber formation, there should be a minimum of 8 degrees of Celsius, not the minimum, 8 degrees of Celsius temperature difference between the night temperature and the day temperature. But when the environmental temperature increasing, what will happen? That range become narrow. Then the tuber formation will be reduced. Because of that, the harvest or the tuber harvest or the potato harvest or other tubers as well will be reduced. You see this one, right? So here, if you go through this research paper, you can find one name, even a single Sri Lankan name here, Saman Senavira, right? He's a very good friend of mine, 1 year senior to me. In 1996, when he did his PhD in Australia, and he found that because of the elevated carbon dioxide concentration, here it says, alter the protein, micronutrients, and vitamin content in rice grains, right? In our countries, in poor Asian countries, most of the protein is received by the poor fraction of the society by grains. Grains means rice, they are staple food, right? So when the protein content of the same rice also reduce, when the micronutrients like zinc, iron, right, then what will happen? Most of our people will be malnourished, right? Their brain growth will be retarded, right? Those are the aspects. So because of that, this is a very serious issue. Actually, we are fortunate to have one of our Sri Lankan fellow is involving in these kind of research work, and maybe you have found him even on television, because on sabbatical leave he returned to Sri Lanka to serve as the chairman of the Institute of Fundamental Studies, Kandy. Now he just finished that one. Probably he will serve the country even more in the future. So we will see, right? And then this is another research paper. You can see the same scenario, right? Then the food quality, the vitamin, micronutrients, right? Protein contents will be reduced, then affect the human nutrition. And then the food production, right? As I mentioned, based on the reasons what I mentioned, food production, food quantity also will be affected. Then our food security will be affected. So those are the things very dangerously affect us in the future, right? This is another scenario based on agriculture, right? Effects on livestock production. So when here you can see, this is the temperature is around, indicated in Fahrenheit, right? The 75 degrees of Fahrenheit is around 24 degrees of Celsius, right? So then you can understand where in Sri Lanka the entire the day temperature or the daily temperature is around 24 degrees of Celsius, right? And this 90 degrees of Fahrenheit says it is around 32.2 degrees of Celsius, right? 100 Fahrenheit says uh, that is around 37 degrees of Celsius. You see, these are the, for example, from 75 to 85, right? If the 75, that is the temperature is around 24, then the animal, they don't have stress. But from 24 to up to 32, then they are in a mild stress, right? Then 32 up to 37, they are just at a medium stress. After 37, they are under very severe stress, even death can take place. So under these stress conditions, they cannot produce milk. So now we are trying to increase the milk production in the country, but it is in vain, right? So impacts on agriculture. So their production will be reduced, right? Because the environment will be changed, the water quality will be changed, their growth rate will be affected, our food production in danger. And then impact on biological diversity and wildlife, right? Survival, breeding, habitat range. For example, you can take a good example. Right now, you can see our peacock, right? So earlier peacocks were limited to the dry zone areas. Now my university is in Matara. It is not under the dry zone. It is in wet zone. So now most of the paddy are affected by because of the peacocks. You see, when the temperature is increasing, the dry zone conditions are exist in the low country wet zone. These animals are moving towards the lesser temperatures. Similarly, the butterflies, their range now become narrow because they are moving towards the higher elevations. Right. Rainfall changes, we have discussed about the disease species that affect the temperature, water availability, the salinity level, acidity levels, right? This is sea turtles, right? Now we are talking every day, right? Because of the death of sea turtle, large number of sea turtles because of the that ship scenario, right? This is because their habitats are altered, acidity level will be increased, right? And their habitat will be covered by seawater, right? They lay eggs in the shore level, right? In the seashore, right? So now these areas will inundated by salt water, their habitat will be lost. And then wildlife conservation, right? So when the temperature increase, the grass will be died, then the food production for them is reduced. A lot of deaths will be occur, right? Even their breeding will be affected. With the higher temperature, their breeding success rate or the breeding efficiency, even for the human, that is common, right? Not only for the animals, their breeding efficiency will be reduced. And then this is coral bleaching, right? Coral bleaching, because of the high temperature in the seawater, the coral is an association between the algae and the coral polyps. Then most of the algae, here you can see, this is that rosy color. One is the algae, already still they are living here. The other rest of the area is algae is gone away, right? So because of that, this algae and coral polyps association is disturbed. So therefore, coral bleaching take place. And then salmon, right? As you are aware, salmon fish is a very high commercial fish species, especially in Nordic countries. So their parasitic infections will be more and more, higher and higher, right? So because of that salmon culture will be affected. Then polar bears, right? So very innocent animal, not, I cannot say innocent, they are very dangerous when you just confront with them, right? So their habitat, now it is getting reduced. Even North Pole, the snow cover getting reduced, right? This area that is available for their living is reduced, the temperature getting increased, their body activities will be retarded, affected. So because of that, not only these very prominent animals, even some of the animals that we have not been studied thoroughly will be affected, because each and every animal has any organism has their own comfort zone, comfortable range of temperature, minimum temperature, upper critical temperature, lower critical temp. Between that only they are just managing, right? Beyond higher levels, beyond lower levels, they cannot survive. And then on human life, what will happen? Livelihood, right? Agriculture and forestry, as I discussed. Even the housing will be destroyed because of the salt water, not the sea level rise. Then nutrition, I told you. Then food security, disease infections, because malaria and most of the insects growing fast. So then their production or their effect on the human beings will be increased. Right? Then well-being, because their job security will be affected and income will be affected. So then the well-being will be affected. So then our responsibility to mitigate global warming. So here, commitment. So we have to commit it. We have to commit. Just for the mitigation of global warming gas formation, right? And adoption of different practices. For example, as students, what we can do. And of course, I know that as a global family, you are involving, even this awareness is one of the activities actually. You see, you are participating here, right? Climate change requires individual to contribute to sustainability in their communities through practical solutions, right? I am sure the Royal Globe family, I am sure already you are involved in. Even this knowledge dissemination is a part of it, right? Based on this information, you can react. Definitely, you must have, you have done so many tree planting campaigns, other activities, right? So as students, the science and technology, right, involved, a lot of modifications you can do, right? And then healthy habits, right? Healthy habits. So you have to think about how to grow crops, right, without harming the environment, right? And then a lot of actions. For example, now if you switch off a bulb, right, what will happen, right? You save energy. You understood that energy sector is the most critical sector involving in the global warming, right? Even single hour, if you switch off the light where unnecessarily it is switched on, so then you can contribute. You have a role to play, right? Then environmental awareness, what you are doing actually at the moment, right? If you know about what are the factors of, affecting the global warming, the sources of global warming, definitely then you are involving in mitigating them. Then efficiency and innovation. For example, now instead of these tungsten bulbs, CFL bulbs, we are using those LED bulbs. Their energy requirement is so less, right? Then efficient energy production criteria, right? Then solar power, right? And so now you see, when you are become richer and richer, what will happen, right? So you are going for the very sophisticated vehicles, right? Very sophisticated life. For example, instead of fan, we are using here to just to reduce your environmental temperature when you are sleeping. Maybe some people, if they can afford, they are switch on air conditioners, right? So then we have a responsibility, right? Those are the things that I have to tell you, right? And here some of the actions what we can do. Option for renewable energy, promoting public transport. So instead of individual transport, what you are having these days to face the COVID-19. So then we must have trains and buses and other common way of transport, public transport. Then planting forest and restoring damaged ecosystems, the mangrove replanting, forest planting, right? And then green building, right? Green building is a new concept, right? So you can plan, the architects plan the houses where avoid the heat increase within the houses, and with minimum use of electricity or the energy, then you can maintain the low temperatures inside the houses. So those are new technologies now. Now green building concepts are there, right? And then crop diversification. Instead of one crop, you can have you can go select the crops that is tolerant for higher environmental temperatures. Still, then you can survive. You can have a good food production. Developing innovative solutions like solar energy, right? There may be other energy sources that have not been touched or even think of, right? Maybe you will be the person that find as a new innovation, right? So then don't think you are too simple, too small. So you will be, one day you will be the pioneer of these technologies, right? Then responsible consumption, right? So uh, need not to consume more. So consume or consume what is the required amount, not overconsumption can be reduced. That is 3R concept, right? Reduce, right? And then reuse, right? So these are the ways that you can involve to mitigate the global warming, right? So therefore, here I just finished my presentation. I think I took some more time because it is still, I think global warming is, you cannot finish it within 1 hour or 45 minutes. It's a vast, I have just minimized the content here, but still you can talk it about days and hours, not hours, days, sometimes weeks, right? Through these kind of webinar series, even you can go ahead. So increase your knowledge. So you will be a responsible citizen in the country, and not like many of the people in the country. So you will be part of it and take the lead and try, because don't think, right? Even when you look at the data, so you found that the average amount of carbon dioxide emitted by a person in the world is 4 tons, 4.8 tons, right? So we are far below even 1/4 of that, right? 1 point something, right? You see, so but then you will say what we can do. What we can do, we are just, even at the moment we are far below the global average. Are you talking, are you thinking, are you telling us that reduce further? Then how our comfortable life will be affected, right? Don't I need to have a air conditioner? Don't I need to drive a what kind of vehicle? Ferrari, right? Benz, BMW, right? The with the engine capacity of 3000 3500 cc, right? Think about this positively, right? So live a life having very minimum amount of carbon dioxide emission, having a very less carbon footprint. So then as a globe family member, right, you will be proud of one day, right? So when you reach the age of ours or even beyond, so then you can think about, oh, what responsible life I led, right? How many of us, how many of the citizens I have educated, how far I have set an example for them, right? These are the ways and means how you can react towards to mitigate the global warming and have a life as a responsible citizen of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that very informative explanation. Next up, I would like to move on to the Q&A session. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute and ask now.
Thank you, sir, for that presentation. I have a question. So
Yes, sir.
you mentioned about carbon emission, which is quite high.
Yes.
And to my knowledge about plants, I know that plants absorb carbon dioxide for photosynthesis.
Yes.
Are there some plants which absorb more carbon dioxide than normal plants, like some plants?
We can say like that, right? Even similar type of question or the scenario I just went through in a newspaper, right? So I just give you the answer and deviated from that, right? So some of the plants, for example, now our what is that oil farm, right? Some people say they consume a lot of water, some say no, right? When you compare these two plants, like those are plantation crops, then rubber and oil farm, those two are similar plants, right? But when you take the number of plants that you plant within an acre, within a unit area, so then that is the way that you have to think about, right? If it is covered in the standard spacing, so then what is the amount that carbon dioxide sequestered or uh, water consumed? This is the way, right? To my knowledge, actually, I think it depends on the canopy structure, right? For example, there are bushes, right? So then as a whole, their carbon dioxide fixing capacity is not comparable with the large mahogany tree, right? Because of the plant structure, number of leaves present, right? So beyond that, probably already I have not read, but anyway, there is a chance, because I can tell you in one aspect. For example, now most of the environmental pollutants, right, especially the soil pollutants, are remediated through plants. That is called as phytoremediation, right? For the phytoremediation, we don't use all the types of plants. There are particular plants absorb particular elements like cadmium, then zinc, right? Then copper. Likewise, there are some identified plants called as hyperaccumulators, right? Actually, I have not particularly studied about such kind of plants that is fixing more amount of carbon dioxide. But you know, that depends on various aspects. For example, as for the aspect I have told you, the canopy structure, the plant structure, number of leaves, the type of plant, right? And the plant density that you can propagate within an area, right? So depending on those parameters, definitely there will be variation. Definitely there will be variations. But for example, for example, if a unit area of leaf is concerned, there will be differences, but I am not very familiar with that situation, right? So did you get find the answer? Actually, it is not direct answer for your question, but anyway, so I will just, but maybe I don't have a chance to come back to you. So I need further reading to exactly say which plants are, if there are such plants, on what criteria they are producing or absorbing more carbon dioxide, right? So definitely based on those different criteria, the carbon dioxide absorbing capacity or the carbon dioxide fixing capacity definitely be different, right? Similar to the phytoremediation capacity or the where the hyper accumulator plants are involved in. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. If there are any more questions, you all can ask now.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, in countries like Maldives, where the sea levels are exponentially rising, do you think
Yeah.
it's all right to focus on adaptations methods such as building up sea walls and stuff, as opposed to fixing or trying to reduce global warming?
Actually, because if you think about the population, right, and the activities they are contributing for the global warming. So I think almost maybe I have not just compared how where the in the rankings where the Maldives are, where the Maldives is, right? But still, so I can I know that some of the countries like Indonesia, right, and and Bangladesh, they are just building some barriers for the salt water intrusion, right? Just to have a kind of barrier when the sea level rise take place. But I don't think that, because definitely maybe you can have a kind of barrier to reach the salt water on the ground level. But still, you see from you cannot entirely separate the sea margin from the landward margin. No? From the groundwater, it can connect. Right? Because of that, but just to prevent not the chemical actions, chemical reactions. So you cannot do that. But for the physical effects, you can prevent them. For example, because of the sea level rise, what I mentioned in my slide, so because of the high wave action, what will happen? Because of that high wave action and increased wave action, even the coastal houses that is already exist in the area will be affected, right? So then because of the barriers, you can reduce that damage, not the effect entire, all forms of effects created by the sea level rise cannot be controlled, especially the countries like Maldives. Even you see, even in Sri Lanka, for example, our goal face is facing towards the sea, right? There will be areas where the sea level is almost equal to the ground level, right? Maybe 10 centimeter increase will inundate some of the areas, right? If you go through the coastal belt of the country, right? So then, can we think, is it practical that we can have a dam or some kind of structure constructed throughout the country? I don't think that will be a very practical option or the mitigatory action, right? Definitely what we can do is, so like what we did in the tsunami, right? So we asked the people to move away from the maybe 300 meters from the coastal line. The people were evacuated, not the evacuated. The people were legally asked to go away from that 300 belt margin. And then what is the adaptation? Actually, we are adapting to the situation. We cannot prevent that. We have to adapt. In some places, in some cases, we can prevent, right? So, but if that is inevitable, then we have to adapt for that. හරි දැන් මිනිහෙක් ගහන්න එනකොට ඒක නිකන් හරියට එක්ක අපි strongly ඉන්නවා ගැහුවොත් ගහනවා කියලා. නැත්තම් මොකද කරන්නේ? right? නැත්තම් දුවනවානේ. Like that is the adaptation. Right? Reaction or adaptation. So then what we can do is what they did in the tsunami. So then when you are, because very close to the, even in areas like Ambalangoda, then Paralia, Ahungalla, in those areas, even Hikkaduwa police station, you can see the ground layer is just the houses are on the then if the still can live on the upstairs. Even the tsunami comes, they are safe on the upstairs. So that kind of adaptation actually. So I think most of the cases, these effects may not be prevented because actually we are not the responsible people. For example, you see sea level rise. So we are contributing very minute proportions, but China, America, Russia, India, they are contributing a lot, right? But we are affected. So then we have to face, we have to, because mitigation is not a something feasible or something, how can you say, quantifiable for us, because we are contributing very little. So because of that, mitigate adaptation is the most critical and important thing. So then we have to adapt to these situations. For example, then if we have agriculture lands just close to the sea level, then we have to shift them to other areas. Or what we can do is we can find some seed varieties, some crop varieties that is resistant to saline conditions, right? Those are the things, especially with the climate change scenarios take place due to the global warming. Always we have to adapt. There is no way of escaping from it. That's the thing that we have to very clearly understand. So you will be the people, take the leadership of developing these adaptation measures in different sectors, right? Then it will finally end up with the mitigation situations.
Thank you, sir. Next up, as we mentioned earlier, we have planned an online poster competition and we have shared the link on the chat. If there is anyone interested, please go and check that out. Now, I would like to thank Mr. Anton Pereira for accepting our invitation and gracing us with his presence today. Thank you, sir, for all your wise words and answering our questions without hesitation. We wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors, and we hope that you will continue to help the Globe family in our future projects. I would also like to thank our principal, Mr. MVS Gunatilaka, and Mr. TDCP Amaratunga for their continuous guidance and support despite their busy schedules. A huge thank you to our teacher in charge, Mrs. Pushpran De Silva, for being the supporting backbone of the club and guiding us in everything we do. We would have never been able to conclude this project as we have if not for her guidance. Next up, I would like to thank our participants for joining, asking questions, and helping to make this an interactive session throughout. We hope that you all use this knowledge that you all gained today for the betterment of planet Earth. As all good things must come to an end, I would like to conclude today's proceedings with a special quote. The greatest threat to planet Earth is the belief that someone else will save it. We hope that you all enjoyed today and got some encouragement to take initiative and take a step towards creating a greener globe. Thank you, everyone, and have a pleasant day.
Thank you.